أنكم تكذبون فلولا إذا بلغت الحلقوم وأنتم حينئذ تنظرون ونحن أقرب إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون فلولا إن كنتم غير مدينين ترجعونها إن كنتم صادقين فأما إن كان من المقربين فروح وريحان وجنة نعيم وأما إن كان من أصحاب اليمين فسلام لك من أصحاب اليمين وأما إن كان من المكذبين الضالين فنزل من حميم وتصلية جحيم إن هذا لهو حق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثة
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum, dear Shaykh Usama, brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining us today, inshallah. Before starting tonight's program, inshallah, I would like to send my condolences to all of you, to the leader, all of those commemorating the martyrdom of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Please recite another loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, to start off tonight's program, I would like to welcome our dear brother Ali Abbas. Inshallah, tonight we are going to be reciting verses from Surah At-Taghabun, verses 6 through 9. If you could please help me welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أفلح من صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ذلك بأنه كانت تأتيهم رسلهم بالبينات فقالوا أبشر يهدوننا فكفروا وتولوا واستغنى الله والله غني حميد زعموا الذين كفروا أن لن يبعثوا قل بلى وربي لتبعثن ثم قل بلى وربي لتبعثن ثم لتنبؤن بما عملتم وذلك على الله يسير فآمنوا بالله ورسوله والنور الذي أنزلنا والله بما تعملون خبير يوم يجمعكم ليوم الجمع ذلك يوم التغابن ومن يؤمن بالله ويعمل صالحا يكفر عنه سيئاته ويدخله جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا ذلك الفوز العظيم ذلك الفوز العظيم صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله وآله الأطهار على رسول الله وآله الأطهار صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsantum, Brother Ali, and inshallah another loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala. Inshallah, just a few announcements before we begin. Just a reminder, inshallah, we will be having dinner today after the program, directly after the lecture. So we ask everybody to please join us. Even if you didn't specifically sign up on the list, we want to make sure everybody knows that there's enough food for everybody. We want to make sure we all break bread together. We wanted to remind everybody, for our children, we definitely want to make sure that this space is welcoming and nurturing. But the gym area is available if the children do need to go around, let off some different energy. We do want to make sure that we give them their freedom and the necessary tools to, inshallah, get them ready to be able to sit through a lecture when they are ready for the next 7, inshallah. So we want to make sure that everybody knows that. And then when the parents feel like they're ready to come back up, inshallah, they can make that decision. Inshallah, if everybody could stay tuned on our WhatsApp and social media channels for any upcoming events. Inshallah, 2 weeks from now, our next program will be Friday, May 17th. Inshallah, we will celebrate the wilada of Imam Rida alayhi salam, followed by a dinner as well. And before welcoming Shaykh Usama, if we could, inshallah, please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all the shuhada in Gaza, all over the world, all of the brothers and sisters, all of those who are dying on the path of Islam, speaking up and raising their voices and doing what they need to do for the oppressed. Inshallah, we'll also include the support for all the blessed movements around the world, including the blessed student movements globally. Inshallah, we pray for a resounding victory that will hasten the reappearance of our 12th Imam, inshallah. Inshallah, with the Surah Al-Fatiha. Inshallah, without further ado, if you could please help me welcome our teacher, our scholar, Shaykh Usama Abdulghani, with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. A warm welcome to everybody. Brothers and sisters, inshallah, we have 2 main things we want to talk about today. The first one, and the one that we're going to spend the time on in the beginning, is commemorating the Shahada of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. And in his honor, inshallah, we'll be breaking bread together. So hopefully, brothers and sisters, everybody will stay. We'll break bread together. And brothers, inshallah, sisters won't listen, but inshallah, if there are new faces, let's make sure that we can be extra friendly. We'll be on our A game to welcome those new faces. Maybe this time we can beat the sisters and be even more friendly than they are, inshallah. Okay. So the first one is about Imam Sadiq, and then the second one, if we have time, is to talk about verse number 6 from Surah Taghabun. Verse number 6, inshallah, we can talk about a secret of Imam Khomeini that we can be reminded about by looking at verse number 6. But first, let's talk about Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ajal faraja. So, brothers and sisters, Imam Sadiq is one of our most misunderstood Imams. And unfortunately, one of the underappreciated Imams. Even though he was our Imam for 34 years, and the contributions that were made during his era are some of the best times of Islam, but for whatever reason, unfortunately, many people don't understand this Imam and they aren't impressed with this Imam. If they are impressed with this Imam, and I'll try and explain why, sometimes the take they have on the Imam isn't the correct take. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the first 10 years of the life of our Imam, the first 10 years after he became our Imam. Very short, I'll just talk a little bit about that. And I would like, brothers and sisters, to hopefully keep 2 points in mind for this brief reminder in the beginning. The first point, inshallah, especially if you're able to draw parallels between the time of the Imam and the time we're going through right now. 2 points to keep in mind for this brief reminder. The first one will be remembering to finish strong. I'll share the hadith later. To finish strong, that'll be the first reminder. And the second reminder will be the critical importance of the clarification jihad. So inshallah, we'll try and keep these two in mind. Now, although we, as Shia, as followers of the Ahlul Bayt, all of us hold our Imam, meaning Imam Sadiq, in the highest regard. There's no person who is a follower of Ahlul Bayt who knows who the Imam is and doesn't hold that Imam in the highest regard. Everybody holds him in the highest regard. But unfortunately, sometimes the take we have, the lessons we try to draw from the life of this Imam, how we see him in our heart of hearts might be different than how Allah would have us see him. This is because even from the time of Imam Sadiq, there was an extensive misinformation campaign to present him in a different light than he actually was. And if we, as believers, haven't done our homework when it comes to truly understanding this Imam, we may succumb to the misinformation. It was there from the time of Imam Sadiq. So, having said that, I would like to advise brothers and sisters, because there's no way we can cover the life. The Imam was our Imam for 34 years. What did he do? What was his contributions? There's no way in one lecture, 45 minutes, we're going to cover that. I would like to advise brothers and sisters, myself first, and then brothers and sisters, to look at a couple of books. If you and I want to get that correct view of Imam Sadiq and present that correct view, I would advise brothers and sisters to look at a couple of books. One of them is Imam Hussein's Brothers in Arms. Brothers and sisters, that is a masterpiece. If you and I can read the book, Imam Hussein's Brothers in Arms, and then look at Ahlul Bayt, and then fill in the details, we'll have a very different take. So one of them is that. For some of you, you may also have access, although ideally this book should be reprinted, and ideally the person who does it be a native speaker, but the book is incredible. The book is The 250-Year-Old Man. If you can find the better versions of that. Or for some of you, maybe you can speak Arabic, maybe you can read in Arabic, then you could, for instance, read that book in Arabic. For those of you who speak Farsi, then you can read the original book, or even better, listen to the words of the leader himself. Some of us, we learn better when we listen. And just hear him describe the Ahlul Bayt, it is mind-blowing. So if I have that gift, if Allah has blessed me in that way, maybe I can do my homework in that way. The other book that inshallah as a community we've all looked at was Reclaiming the Narrative. Reclaiming the Narrative, if we read that, it gave us the general overall framework for understanding Islam and Ahlul Bayt. We add in those details. After those books, then another book which is really good, but after we've established the framework, is Lives of the 12. Lives of the 12, that's also good, but once we have that understanding, then we can put those details that are there in the right place and come away with that powerful image that we should have. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, remember, I mentioned, so we're not going to accuse any of the mu'mineen who might say, and maybe you've heard these points that I'm about to share, you may have heard them before. That someone would have this as literally their take from the Imam and with the best of intentions, right? Because as I said, all of the Shia have the utmost regard for the Imam, okay? But sometimes with the best of intentions, because of the misinformation, and I feel a little bit, I don't know if the microphone is going in and out, but salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So sometimes with the best of intentions, I can still have a take from the Imam that conflicts with that original take. I want to give you some real examples of some mistakes that sometimes the Shia make, and sometimes even, unfortunately, an alim can make. Again, with the best of intentions. Sometimes, the way that the Imam is introduced, the person will quote a hadith for you where our Imam is groveling before Mansur, one of the Tawaghit. Imam Sadiq, that champion, the person in the best of intentions will literally quote for you with a straight face, Imam Sadiq groveling before one of the Tawaghit. Or the person will speak very glowingly about the Imam, saying that the Imam, the University of Imam Sadiq, and the Imam had 4,000 students. But in their take, the Imam is an academic. The Imam is apolitical. But he is having wonderful debates and cleverly defeating the enemy and scoring points in academia. But the take of the Imam is that he is a weakling in the end. Now, again, there's a reason why this happened. There's misinformation that's out there, and a reason why people don't see that Imam the way that he is. But if you think about it logically, how could it be possible for a responsible leader, let alone Imam Sadiq, to be happy with doing mental acrobatics and scoring points in academia, where his Shia and his family at the exact same time were paying such a price economically because of the Tawaghit that they don't have enough clothing, some of them, to conduct Salatul Jama'ah. So his followers, because of love of Ahlul Bayt, because of resisting, are struggling, are hiding, and the Imam is just over there and he is debating and defeating and 4,000 students. How is that even possible that our Imam would be like that? There's something that gives with that explanation. Why would the enemies kill somebody who was literally Islam's version of Albert Einstein? If he's just an intellectual, why would they kill him? Do you know how many times Imam Sadiq was exiled? How many times was he exiled? How many times was our Imam brought in chains before the authorities? How many times was his house attacked? That they set the house of the Imam on fire? How did he conduct himself and talk to those students when there's so much surveillance? These are questions that we should be asking and we should want to know about this Imam. So the real Imam Sadiq was the Sayyidul Muqawama. The real Imam Sadiq. As fiery as Shaheed Abbas al-Musawi or Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah is, they're the children of that Imam. Imam Sadiq was a champion. He's not the, I'm going to give you, inshallah, we'll cover just a little bit about the history of the Imam, and then you'll see when you start putting the dots together, well, yeah. Okay? But before we get to the history of the Imam, he's not the first Imam who people, the masses, have been misinformed about. Even when it comes to other members of the Ahlul Bayt, again, the masses with the best of intentions will be misinformed and not see those Imams as champions. For instance, in good faith, with the best of intentions, people will introduce Imam Hassan alayhi salam as a pacifist, as a realist, as someone who stayed in his lane. That's not the real Imam Hassan. So when people introduce Imam Ali, when you and I think of Imam Ali, we think of that hero of Badr and Uhud and Khandaq, right? We think of Imam Ali, Khaybar, that's what we think of Imam Ali. When you and I think of Imam Hussein, we think of one man versus 30,000. But then when it comes to Imam Hassan, why is it that sometimes we haven't heard about his marhab moment? The time when Imam Hassan, Islam was in danger, and he showed that side of himself. And if he wasn't able to show that side of himself later, it was because we as Shia weren't strong. Not because the Imam was a pacifist and a realist. No, I want to give you a historical example. How did the Ahlul Bayt introduce him? How is the real history of Imam Hassan? I want to give you an example from the Battle of Jamal. So Battle of Jamal, brothers and sisters, was a very important battle in Islamic history. So many lessons from that battle. Incredible. Only 5 months after the Khilafah, the outward Khilafah of Amirul Mu'mineen is established, this battle is there. People are confused. The Prophet had predicted this battle, Shia and Sunni. The Prophet had predicted this battle. The people in this battle are people who only 5 months after Amirul Mu'mineen, they came for bay'ah, they break the bay'ah. Notable companions. Why were people confused? This was the first time that someone would go over these companions. You have to remember who these guys were, the champions that these guys were, and how these guys, who were first calling for the death of Uthman and not allowing water to be given to the house of Uthman, after Uthman was killed, then these guys go over and say that we're going to fight because of Uthman, and Uthman was Madlum, and right? But people were confused because these were notable companions. So at this time, when people are literally confused, and now the first internal war in this stage, at this level, the other word, Siffin, comes because of this. Khawarij becomes because of this. This is the first one. At this stage, the believers are confused, and now there's going to be a huge battle amongst the believers. And Amirul Mu'mineen does everything he can to stop the battle. He tries to talk to people. He tries to convince people. Even before the battle begins, he tells one of the youth, he was like, look, you want to go and read Quran? Reason with them with Quran. But this young man is about to become shaheed. And the Imam gives him instructions. If you lose your first hand, then what do? How do you continue to try to present the Quran, save lives? But the enemy was charged up. They were ready to go. And what happens is they, according to some accounts, they didn't even have a flag. The flag was the camel. Right? Al-Mu'mineen is riding that camel. We're getting revenge for Uthman. People are literally confused. The camel is a battle camel. Huge red-haired camel, armored. Even the canopy on top of the camel is also armored. And then look at the poetry that the people were reciting. So people are fanatical now. Ready? Listen to the poetry. Ya mash'aran nas. O people, alaykum ummukum. Look out for your mother. Watch your mother. Notable companions, thousands of believers. فَإِنَّهَا صَلَاتُكُمْ وَصَوْمُكُمْ. She is your salah. She is your fasting. So people are fanatical and they are fighting. And at first when the battle began, it wasn't easy to break through the ranks. They said that people were holding so fervently to the camel. Literally, arms would be cut off. The next man would grab the reins of the camel. We're marching forward. Alaykum ummukum. You're defending your own mother. Ummul Mu'mineen. We're fighting back. Amirul Mu'mineen decides to try and save lives because the flag, the icon, everything is the camel. He wants to save lives. He tried to save lives before. So, Amirul Mu'mineen gives his own personal spear to a brave fighter, his son, Muhammad Hanafiya. And he tells his son to go and to take down the camel. And Muhammad Hanafiya advances and fights and attacks, but it's just too much. The people are too fanatical. They're there, they're defending the camel, whatever it takes. Muhammad Hanafiya comes back. He wasn't able to. And he's coming back towards his father. And at this time, the hadith tell us, Imam Hassan snatched the spear from his brother. Then he went charging into the heart of the camp of the enemy. And the Imam fought until he got to the camel, through everyone. And then he pierced the heart of the camel, took the camel down, and then Imam Hassan came back and ended the fight. It was his marhab moment. When he came back, then the spear was dripping with blood. And Muhammad Hanafiya was so ashamed of himself that Imam Ali gave me the chance and take down the camel and this all of Islam, and I couldn't. And when the Imam saw the face of Muhammad Hanafiya, then he told Muhammad Hanafiya, he said, don't worry about it. Innahu ibnun Nabi wa anta ibnu Ali. He's the son of Fatima. He's the son of the Prophet. This is an Imam. You're the son of Ali. You tried your best. Right? So this is the real Imam Hassan. Misinformation. Now back to our own story, which is about Imam Sadiq. Imam Sadiq, you see, and this is based on a hadith of Ahlul Bayt. The projection of the Ahlul Bayt, alayhimus salam, was that our Imam Sadiq, was going to be the person who filled the world with justice. I use the word Sayyidul Muqawwam, that he was going to finish the job. That's how the Ahlul Bayt saw him. They were expecting Imam Sadiq to finish the job. You see, it was the blood, sweat, and tears of Imam Sajjad when we were so few. Remember, you've read the hadith before, that 3 of the believers had remained with Ahlul Bayt and were still fighting in social political Islam. Blood, sweat, and tears. And then after that, the proactive patience, the revolutionary patience of Imam Baqir. that now, because neither Imam thought that the grounds would be ready for the qiyam in their time. They didn't think that. Their projection was, and we'll talk about the failure, and then remember those two reasons that I said, 2 points to keep in mind when we're going over this history. So, the projection of Ahlul Bayt was that most of the heavy lifting has been done by these first two Imams. There is heavy lifting that needs to be done by Imam Sadiq, but Imam Sadiq is going to be the one who will flip the lid on the Tawaghit. To this extent, this is now hadith from Imam Baqir. The inner circle of the Imam this is the inner circle of the Imam telling or relating an incident about Imam Sadiq. It's probably a private gathering. This person who's telling the hadith, his name is Jabir bin Yazid al-Ju'fi. So we're talking about the inner circle, the Ashab al-Sir of the Imam. He says that we were in a gathering and Imam Baqir was asked, who will the Qa'im after you be? The Qa'im after you. And he said that the Imam with his hand, he tapped on Imam Sadiq. So maybe he tapped on his shoulder. Imam must have been next to him. He tapped and he said that, هَذَا وَاللَّهِ بَعْدِي قَائِمُ آلِ Muhammad. That wallah, after me, the Qa'im of Ali Muhammad is Imam Sadiq. Now, brothers and sisters, in Arabic, if they say that he's the Qa'im, it doesn't normally, the first meaning that comes to mind is not that he is the Qa'im who will teach people tayammum, right? He's the Qa'im who will teach tasihul qira'ah. He'll make sure your qira'ah. No. When they say the Qa'im, they're saying the person who's going to do qiyam, who's going to flip the lid. That's why they're expecting this. So what had happened? You see, our Imam had two jobs. Imam Sadiq, because a lot of the heavy lifting had been done. Bani Umayyah were very weak. Very weak. Our Imam had two jobs. He had to continue to speak to the people, to get the people ready, the masses ready for the divine government, the kingdom of God, the clarification jihad. He had to continue to work on the masses to get their hearts and their minds ready to be able to accept the wilayah of Allah. He also needed companions who were ashura'i. If he had these two, the projection was by the time where the Abbasids later will be able to rule, that Imam Sadiq is going to be in charge. That's why for the first 10 years of the imamate of our Imam, he doesn't do taqiyya. He's unfiltered. Imam Sadiq. Because now the Bani Umayyah, they're so weak, they're so internally they're weak, so corrupt, they don't have the time and the common sense to crush Imam Sadiq, and Imam Sadiq is going for the jugular vein. To the extent that now Imam Sadiq at Hajj, so Hajj, brothers and sisters, is the most public arena that you can have. And the Imam at Hajj is calling for his leadership, the overthrow of the government, that he be the Imam. That means he's literally, Imam Sadiq is close to the tents of the Muawiyah of his time. It's almost done. We'll talk about why it didn't happen. It's almost done, but the hadith says this, that the Imam was in Hajj, and he was turning, so as public as you can, I'm not hiding anything, no taqiyya. They said the Imam was turning in 4 directions, speaking to all the believers who were around him, and shouting at the top of his voice, and he started off saying these words, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, inna Rasulullah kana al-imam. The Prophet was an Imam. He says, ثُمَّ كَانَ الْعَلِيُّ ibn Abi Talib. After that, Ali ibn Abi Talib. After that, he goes all the way down to himself and says, and then me, I'm the Imam. So the Imam sees that the grounds are ready. Literally, he's there at the tents of Muawiyah. We're about to win, to flip the lid. What happened though? the companions of the Imam weren't strong. Good enough, good to get it close, but they couldn't finish the job. The Imam's companions didn't have the necessary sabr to be able to continue to resist, and the deep iman that's needed to resist. Because of that, Bani Umayyah, and I'm going to talk, inshallah, remember, what about the masses, inshallah, for you and I to talk about our part. So one part was the companions, that they weren't ready enough. Because of that, Bani Umayyah are able to, Abbas, the Abbasids are able to take advantage of this and introduce a dictatorship. So, the companions of the Imam, unfortunately, they weren't ready for the Imam. We've heard that story about how that companion came in from Khurasan. His name was Sahl. So Sahl came in, and he sees the Imam and he says, why is it that you're sitting? Why aren't you doing qiyam? The situation is ready. He says, there are 100,000 Shia waiting for you in Khurasan. Bismillah. The Imam tells him to sit. They start talking. The Imam tells him, he says, because they had a clay oven over there, right? They heated that clay oven up until it was white hot. The companions over there talking, how ready, this, that, and the other. The Imam tells him, go into the clay oven. And the Khurasanis, oh, I'm so sorry, Ibn Rasulullah, I spoke out of place. The Imam tells him to sit. Another Shia enters. When that Shia enters, the Imam tells him to go. That Shia just walks directly, gets inside that clay oven. And then the Imam begins to have a conversation with the Khurasani, as if there's nobody in that oven. So tell me, what's Khurasan like? And this guy is. Finally, the Imam tells the other companion to come out. The guy sees that the companion's alive. Then he asks the Imam. The Imam asks him, Sahl. He says, Sahl, how many companions do I have who are like this in Khurasan? So you know what Sahl's answer is. He's like, there's none like that in Khurasan. There's 100,000 like me. There's none like that in Khurasan. So the Imam needed those companions who were Ashura'i, obedient to the Imam. What else though? Because it doesn't stop there. There was something else. Remember, and now I want you and I to keep in mind what's going on with these universities. The qiyam of the universities in Colombia and how it spread to how many universities here in America. And then it's not limited to America. And even though the police are cracking down, I'm sure you and I, you're listening, we're all listening to those interviews of the students. And it's so inspiring. Where the students are saying, and these are students in Ivy League schools, aren't even exposed to Islam yet. Well, and some of the interviews are so brutal. Well, why is it that you are setting up these encampments? Why won't you just, people need to study. And the students say, I want my children and my grandchildren to know that I tried to stop a genocide. You see other ones, and these people, they don't have experience with being hit up the head with these nightsticks or shot with the rubber bullets. And they ask them, and in the mid-interview, the girl turns to the camera and says, can I say something to the people of Gaza? Sure. She says, we will never stop fighting for you until you're free. Now back to us. Brothers and sisters, you and I are in a time where we're very close to praying in Quds. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I hope you can hear the bones of that ethnocentric settler colony breaking. Don't be fooled by the Gestapo tactics of the police. They're breaking. We have to finish strong. The masses in the time of Imam Sadiq, they were prepared to a certain extent. They were ready for a revolution. But the companions hadn't done enough of the clarification jihad. So the Abbasids swooped in and they made another dictatorship that was maybe even worse than Bani Umayyah. Mansur, I mentioned before, how we can never believe that our Imam would be groveling before Mansur. You know who Mansur is? They did stuff Bani Umayyah didn't do. Mansur is the person, the first of the Tawagheet, who leveled Imam Hussein's grave. Not the last. The masses were ready to a certain extent, but the clarification jihad hadn't been done enough. It was still time for somebody to swoop in and misguide it. So, our job, if we want to finish strong, because I want to mention the hadith of the Imam about finishing strong, the hadith of the Prophet. But our job is the clarification jihad, to talk to the people about Islam. So one part is to submit to the Imam, ready to serve the Imam. The other part is this is the time for conversations. Each person to their level, what they can do, their circle, the people they can reach out to. Educate ourselves first. We're reading Imam Hussein's Brothers in Arms. We're reading the Reclaiming the Narrative. We're making sure it's not our version of Islam, but then we're talking to people. The hadith of the Imam is this. So this is Imam Rida. He says, may Allah bless, right? May Allah have mercy on the servant who revives our affair. Revives our affair means prepare the grounds for the qiyam. How do we do that? The Imam says, يَتَعَلَّمُ عُلُومَنَا. My first job is I need to learn. يَتَعَلَّمُ عُلُومَنَا. This person takes in the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. Whatever God says, how God says, يَتَعَلَّم. I learn. He learns our sciences. وَيُعَلِّمُهَا النَّاسِ. But I don't suffice with knowing Islam and following in obedience to the Imam. I have a responsibility to share, to clarify. These people are doing it with the little they know. So you've heard the interviews. For the interviews with some of them, they're saying, why are you doing this? You're almost about to get your PhD. You're $100,000 in debt. Why would you? They're beating you. How many Muslims would back off? Batons? You kidding me? A Quds Day rally? Batons? The water cannons? Bringing thugs and unleashing the thugs for 2 hours? No arrests? Why are you doing this? You've listened to some of the interviews. The people say this: I have moral clarity. I know. I want to be on the right side of history. Okay? Who's supposed to take them the rest of the way? The mu'mineen. So the hadith of the Prophet about finishing strong. We're not going to be like the people of Imam Sadiq. Finishing strong. The Imam says this from our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Prophet says this: Istitamul ma'ruf. So you start something good, you start something right. Ma'ruf, completing ma'ruf, finishing strong. Istitamul ma'ruf afdalu min ibtida'ih. It's even better than starting. To push all the way to the end, so that we can, inshallah, pray in Quds. So, that is what we have. And now, brothers and sisters, I just want to see if we're able to complete this last verse. But first, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the last verse, brothers and sisters, is verse number 6 from Surah At-Taghabun. Sorry. Salawat, please. So, brothers and sisters, if we can, with Surah Taghabun, this last verse, because we've been stuck on this verse for a little while, so I'd like to see if I can finish it by sharing a couple of points. Verse number 6, there's going to be 2 lessons we're going to try to get from this verse. Number 1 will be, when we look at the last part of the verse, reminding ourselves that Allah doesn't have an angle. If Allah is giving us instructions, we'll read the Arabic together. If Allah is giving us instructions, if Allah says do it this way, Allah doesn't have an angle. Allah wants you to win. Allah wants me to win. He doesn't have an angle. That's one. The other one is going to be a lesson that we've seen in the life of Imam Khomeini. A secret of Imam Khomeini. May Allah bless his soul. That lesson, brothers and sisters, first for myself and then all of you, is to learn to see yourself as Allah sees you. See yourself as Allah, not as other people. Other people have defined who you are and what you can do and what you can't do. How about if I could learn to see myself as Allah sees me? Let's look at the verse very quickly. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to read this verse of Quran together. So, Surah 64, Surah Taghabun, and verse number 6. We start off in this way. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. ذَلِكَ, that is because, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُ كَانَتْ تَأْتِيهِمْ رُسُلُهُمْ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. Their rusul, their messengers, used to come to them with clear signs. Both the messaging of the Anbiya was clear, and the miracles, the staff of Musa was clear. Ibrahim being tossed in the fire, it was clear. This man is speaking on behalf of God. What was the response of the people? The culture that was being pushed by the Tawaghit. How did they respond? فَقَالُوا, they said, أَبَشَرٌ يَهْدُونَنَا? Will a human being be able to guide us? How can a human being even be capable? I need to have some kind of one of the malaika talk to me, or a jinn, or an alien. I don't, in the culture of the Taghut, I don't see human beings as the greatest of Allah's creation. A bashar? You kidding me? I don't see human beings as the greatest of. Why do you need one of the malaika? One of the jinn? That last point, and then after that, the story from Imam Khomeini. It says, so because of that culture which was promoted by the Tawaghit, فَكَفَرُوا, they disbelieved, they did kufr, وَتَوَلَّوا, and they turned back. That culture was pushed back, because there's multiple ayat of the Quran that talk about the people saying, how come one of the malaika, how can you talk to me? One of the malaika needs to tell me. Multiple ayat of the Quran, this is just one. وَاسْتَغْنَى اللَّهُ, and Allah is free of need. Allah doesn't have an angle. Wallahu ghani. Allah is free of all need. Hamid, God's praiseworthy. God's on your side. So what was the secret of Imam Khomeini? How can we do this now? The secret of Imam Khomeini was seeing himself as Allah saw him. You've heard it in Farsi where the Imam would say, Ma hame hich hastim. We're all nothing. Whatever there is God. Imam Khomeini believed God could do great things through him. There was never a moment that was too big for Imam Khomeini. The ayat of Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Somebody doesn't want the speech to continue. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, remember this. It's not you It's God. Imam Khomeini. Why could he do what he could do? It's not you. It's God. I'm nothing. Allah is everything. Allah can do it through me. There is no moment that's too big for me. La yukallif Allahu nafsan. Allah doesn't place a burden on the soul. Illa was'aha. I'm able to do it. That kind of confidence. Other ayat of Quran. فَهَزَمُوهُمْ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. They defeated them with the permission of Allah. Right? So, one story that's not true, and inshallah, a story of one of our shuhada. There was a lady, she was very religious. Not true, inshallah. Very religious, this lady. And she lived next door to an atheist. And the atheist would hear this lady praying and praying to God and not hiding her faith. And he used to always harass her and say, there is no God. And she would not pay him any mind. Until one day, he heard her praying and asking for groceries. That, Lord, I don't have any money. Can you get me some groceries? And he said, now is my chance. So what he did was he ran quickly to the grocery store and he bought some groceries and he put it outside her house. And the lady, the religious lady, opened the door and she saw groceries. And she said, MashaAllah, Lord, thank you. I knew you would get me those groceries. And he said, now is my chance. And he jumped out of the bushes. He said, lady, I bought you those groceries. God didn't do it. And then the lady really started going off and singing and praising the Lord. He said, lady, you're so crazy. Why are you saying this? She said, I knew the Lord would provide me with groceries. I didn't know he'd make the devil pay for it. It's not you. It's God, Allah. Okay? Second point about Imam Khomeini. Imam Khomeini believed not only in Allah, but in the mu'mineen. Ayat of Quran, and then the story of the shaheed. It says, يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَيُؤْمِنُ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Ayat of Quran. Prophet Muhammad believes in Allah, وَيُؤْمِنُ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Not only am I not saying that I believe you are an example of the greatest of Allah's creation. I think you can do it. I believe Allah, I believe Allah could do great things through you. Believing in the believers. Confidence in the believers. The ability of the believers to handle whatever Allah throws their way. Now I want to hear, I had two stories, but we'll just end with one of them. And just remind yourself of this ayat of Quran. Because you and I, it just depends how much you want from Allah. Allah loves those who ask for more. I'm going to tell you the story of a shaheed. This is just a little bit. I had more, but one of the stories of a shaheed. This shaheed, his name is Shaheed Mohsen Vizvai. He's only 22 years old. But just keep this in mind. You're the greatest of Allah's creation. Allah can do amazing things through you. Allah can do miracles through you. When you think I'm nothing, Allah's everything. And Allah can do anything. So Shaheed Mohsen Vizvai tells a story. He says that I had gotten hit by a tank shell. Right? A tank. He said, the amount of pain that I was in was unbelievable, unbearable. He says, in order for me to be able to rest, 22 years old, when he meets Allah, this is before. He said, in order for me to feel peace at night, to just be able to sleep in the hospital, he said they would have to shoot me up with 10 Valium for me to sleep, for me to feel a little bit of peace. He says, but even at this time, he says, my morale was high, my spirits were great, I was enjoying myself spiritually. He said, a nurse came over, and the nurse didn't like the revolution, didn't get it, hated Imam Khomeini, the nurse. And for someone like Mohsen, when you would disrespect Imam Khomeini, that was the greatest torture. I can go on the battlefield, I can fight, I can be killed, I can save you. But the insults to Imam Khomeini, so he says, the nurse came to him. Why'd you do this to yourself? Who are you even fighting for? why don't you tell Khomeini to come over here and cure you? So Muhsin said, I told the nurse, Allah will fix it. Allah will fix it. His sister says, she said, there was so much damage on the body of Muhsin that the plan of the doctors was to take bone from his pelvis to rebuild his jaw and his hands. So much damage that was there. It takes it. She said, when they ended up doing the x-rays, they saw that his bones had regenerated. It was a medical miracle. And then she said, Allah loved Muhsin dearly. So brothers and sisters, we're going to stop now. The one point, we haven't even tapped into our potential. What we're capable of, we haven't tapped into it, but inshallah we'll continue at another time. We end with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, just a couple announcements before we conclude the lecture part with dua. Inshallah, we just remind everybody that inshallah we will be having dinner and breaking bread together. Inshallah, we hope that everybody will stay back. Directly after the dua, we ask the sisters to exit first. We're going to have the brothers wait. Inshallah, the sisters are going to go down in a timely manner. And the brothers are going to move some of the chairs to the side. So that way, when salah time approaches, the hall will be ready for salat, inshallah. Without further ado, inshallah, we'll welcome Brother Ali Juma for dua, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلى على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. إلهي عظم البلاء وبرح الخفاء وانكشف الغطاء وانقطع الرجاء وضاقت الأرض ومنعت السماء وأنت المستعان وإليك المشتكى وعليك المعول في الشدة والرخاء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أولي الأمر الذين فرضت علينا طاعتهم وعرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم ففرج عنا بحقهم فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر وهو أقرب. يا محمد يا علي يا علي يا محمد اكفياني فإنكما كافيان وانصراني فإنكما ناصران. يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغوث 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 أدركني 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 الساعة 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 العجل العجل يا أرحم الراحمين بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Just a reminder, if the sisters could please directly at this time go downstairs. We have a crunch time because of Salat as well, so we want to give everybody enough time to eat. So inshallah, if the sisters could head out and the brothers will head directly after.